There's no magical way to sell cars faster, but there is a scientific way. VinQ.
AutoWeb. Welcome to the Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast, the #1 resource for automotive sales professionals, managers, and owners to learn how to make money, accumulate wealth, and to all out ball out in the auto industry. And now your hosts, Sean V. Bradley and L.A. Williams.
1, 2, 3, 4,
AutoWeb.
Hey everybody, this is Sean V. Bradley, the president of Dealer Synergy, and the creator of the Millionaire Car Salesman Facebook group, the podcast, and we've got a phenomenal treat today. I'm interviewing the director of operations for the Doral Automotive Group in Miami, Karen Rodriguez, and she's going to let us know about her secret weapon that helps them generate over $5 million additional. And I've got a friend of mine right here, Kelly Koleopoulos, who is the senior director of sales for CallSource, that is going to be a subject matter expert from all things CallSource related. But Karen, we've talked before, and I've been completely impressed with what you've got going on. Tell us first a little bit about the organization. You have 3 stores in the group, and you're based in what region?
Yep, we're here in Miami, Florida. Obviously a difficult luxury, large, market. And we have 3 stores. So we have Doral Lincoln. Doral Lincoln was our first store, which started in 2009. We are the number 3 volume Lincoln dealer in the nation. So we're even above some of the, dealers up in Michigan. So a very successful Lincoln dealer. And then we purchased Port of Kendall about 2.5 years ago now. And we took that store. We're almost a top 50 Ford dealer as well in the nation. Wow. And then we just opened less than a year ago our 3rd point, which is a new point for Lincoln of Cutler Bay. So
okay. It's an amazing organization. How many units do you guys deliver approximately per month?
So the Lincoln store does, Doral Lincoln does about, on a normal time. So I would say,
normal.
We would do about 120 to 150 new, and anywhere from 175 to 200 pre-owned. That's the Doral store.
Wow.
Yeah. And then our Port of Kendall store does anywhere from 150 to 175 new. We've hit close to 200 at some point as well. And then used, we do also close to 200.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And then the Cutler Bay store, I don't really know because we've been open not very long, but we had hit about 75 new and the same used, but we have just started getting going.
So pretty much you guys are selling over 800 units a month. Correct. Approximately, right? Yep. And that's on the conservative end of the range that you gave me. So it could be 800 to 900 units a month. And so for only having 3 stores, I mean, you guys are high volume dealership. You are triple and sometimes more than triple what national average is. So that's why I'm really intrigued. And you're also have obviously business out of the Miami area, which is a major metro, and it has its own uniqueness, especially with the Hispanic community and Spanish as a second language. So I'm really excited about this interview. But tell me a little bit about you, like your background. How long have you been in the automotive industry? And you're the freaking director of operations for a dealer group. How did you pull that off? So tell me about this.
Yeah, so I've been in the auto industry for about 8 years now. It is a family business, so that helped a little bit. But I did obviously bust my butt to make it to where I am. So it wasn't just handed to me. My dad's not a super easy boss to have. So I did go to the NADA. So I started, going to the dealer school, as I call it. And I was there. I went through all the departments. So I worked in service. I did study accounting, so that was my background. I graduated from the University of Miami with an accounting degree and worked as a CPA before coming over. But I did fall in love with the sales side. My friends always used to tell me anything I liked, I could sell them on. So I guess that transitioned me into the sales side. So it's always been my forte, I guess. And I stuck with the internet sales just because I realized how important that was to the store. And I felt that I could make the most impact in that department. So I, worked obviously in sales and then in the BDC. When one of the managers left and we had gone through a bunch of managers, I said, forget it, I'm going to do this myself. So that's what I did. And I did, improve the department a good amount. I was the BDC manager for our Doral store for about 5 or 6 years. And then once we added Ford as a separate point, I stayed on as a manager for a bit, but then we hired a manager and I became the BDC director. And then when we added the third store, the director of operations. So
first of all, congratulations on your career. You said something that I want to repeat and I want to echo because it's a huge thing. You felt that the internet and BDC was important, so you took it over. I cannot agree with you more than that one statement, because I have a friend and a client. His name's Jason Coons. He's been a high-level internet director at multiple organizations. He just got promoted to the general manager of a brand new Ford store. Technically, he's a GSM, but there's no GM, so he's the head of the organization. And I'm seeing a trend, and it's funny because I talked about this like a decade ago. I believed back then that the internet directors and the BDC directors and managers of today are the GMs and the dealers of the future. Would you agree with that, or is it close that it's that important, internet, BDC, CRM, digital?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think if the GM of a store doesn't have an understanding or feel that that's an important department, unfortunately in today's day and age, they're going to struggle. So definitely 100%. I feel that, especially now with a new point coming from zero up, I've realized, when you don't have that natural walk-in traffic that our other 2 stores already have, because the name is established, it's honestly the most important thing for us. So I would say at the Cutler Bay store, almost 95% of our sales all come from the internet. So,
wow.
Yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah, we've converted also all the salesmen who, a lot of times didn't want to work the BDC. We made them do it, and now, they do it without a problem, and they realize it benefits them and the dealer. So it's been pretty good.
No, I love that. We're on the same page. So basically, based on what you just said about how the internet is so important, let's now amplify that with the current situation with the pandemic, right? Right now, there's a chip shortage, there's an inventory crisis, and it is all over the United States, and it's international. So we have to be super focused as dealers and managers and automotive professionals on every opportunity. We can't squander an opportunity. We can't spend tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in marketing, advertising, and leads and in social media and all this stuff, and then drop the ball when we have prospects. Would you agree?
100%.
So it's super important to make sure that we maximize each and every single prospect and every opportunity. So how do you guys do that? Then one of the reasons why we're doing this interview is that you have a secret weapon, right? So yeah. What are you guys doing to be able to respect the severity of this pandemic and be able to maximize on each and every opportunity to its fullest?
Definitely. So, with this pandemic and everything going on, we've realized, customers, I feel, are actually shopping more because they're trying to see where they can find a car. So, you might get some leads that sometimes would have never sent your brand a lead. So I think especially for a brand like Lincoln, Ford is obviously, sometimes if you're looking for a Ford, you're looking for a Ford, but Lincoln, is obviously a less known brand. So I feel that if you get a lead for a Lincoln and you don't pay attention to that lead, they can go buy a car anywhere else. So we have to make sure that we attend that customer 100%. And I do feel that certain, tools that we have, especially Call Source, has helped us, make sure that we don't lose an opportunity on that end, on either store, Ford or Lincoln.
So tell us, what exactly is Call Source?
Call Source is, so it's a call recording and analysis tool. So it not only records the calls and, obviously logs in the CRM that the BDC agent actually made a call, because, sometimes on other CRMs, they can press complete and nothing was really done. So, you have to rely on them to be truthful and honest. But this will actually record if a call was made. It has the recording for the call. And on top of that, it'll send us daily alerts real-time alerts as soon as the call's been listened to by a live
Let me
agent.
jump in. Okay, a question.
Yeah.
Is it, because I know that a lot of call tracking is for inbound calls. So when you take phone ups, those are easily recorded.
Mm-hmm.
Does Call Source also track the outbound phone calls?
Yes, they do. They do. Obviously, it's only recorded your end because of legal reasons, but they do track it. Yes.
Okay, and so wait a minute, this is intriguing. So literally, if you were their agent at your Lincoln dealership, and you were going to call Kelly, who was interested in an aviator, if you were going to call, and from your dealership, Call Source would record your part of the conversation on the outbound?
Yep.
Okay, now do you have to punch in some type of code or anything like that?
No.
No, and I think I learned why is because since it's only recording your part, there's no need to do that, because that was the complaint when I was running BDCs and stuff like that. It was such a pain in the butt to type in the stupid code in there and outbound, and then it prompt people, and people are like, I don't want this recorded, and freak out. So that's awesome. Okay, so it records inbound completely, both sides, but then it records the outbound. Okay, so I got it. So it records sales calls, service calls, etc. And then what does it do? Does it just call tracking, or you said it's analysis? So how do they analyze the calls?
Yep. So both English and Spanish, which was really important to us, they do a full analysis with a live person that listens to the call, and they will come up with a if it's not an appointment set, if, for example, for the sales side. They send us an alert that tells us, hey, your agent didn't get an appointment on this call, so it was mishandled. So they'll send us an alert right away. Before, you used to have to listen to, God knows, 50 calls a day to try to figure out which ones were mishandled. So this tells us. It'll tell us even if the vehicle is sold and they didn't offer an alternative. If the call, obviously, which is my worst case scenario, was disconnected, the person hung up or left a voicemail and they didn't get to reach somebody. It lets me know. So it's much quicker for me and the BDC managers to jump on that and make sure the person gets contacted back right away. So, nobody's perfect, but, so obviously every dealership is going to have mishandled calls. So you just need to find them and make sure they're addressed.
So give me some of the most common things that they find. So again, if you're selling 800-900 units a month, my math is you're looking at thousands and thousands of leads or prospects, phone ups, B-backs, etc. There's thousands and thousands of them. So first of all, that's got to be overwhelming. It's got to be next to impossible to handle all that, to analyze and hold your people accountable without software, without technology, without a resource. Am I correct?
Definitely, 100%.
Okay. So what do you find? Like, what are the most common things? Because I would bet that they're happening to other dealers all over the country as well. So what are the most common things that they find for you or make you aware of?
Well, shockingly for me, it was a lot of mishandling sometimes on our receptionist side. So sometimes they're, overwhelmed with the amount of call volume, which we've also been able to adjust our call routing thanks to all the calls we've listened to. So now after 2 rings, the calls go automatically to BDC. Before, they were holding a bunch of calls and it just wasn't working out. So a lot of times the receptionist isn't, fully listening to what the customer's saying because they're just trying to shoot them to the correct department. So that was probably one of the main things. And then also sometimes, which, if they ask for a salesperson, a lot of times, like an actual sales associate, they're not answering their office phone. They might not be there. They might not be at their desk, or they might be dodging the customer, whatever it is. We are able to catch that and call them back right away. So, that could be a customer that bought a car a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that wants another car. I mean, that's what we catch all the time. So those are the type of things that we look for.
So Kelly, I want to jump in and sorry, I was just really intrigued here with Karen and like that. But again, I've been in the automotive industry for 22 and a half years. Dealer Synergy, we help and we do, call tracking, call coaching and stuff like that, but not with software. Like we just have reps. So we use Call Source and we use other companies. I'm not going to mention them or what have you. And again, the reason why I was interested in doing this interview is because I keep hearing, Call Source buzzing in the industry from my clients all across the country. What's the big difference between you and other call tracking, companies? Because a lot of dealers think that it's a commodity product that, you just get somebody that's got 800 numbers, but there's obviously a massive difference than just having 800 call tracking numbers compared to what you guys do.
I think there's a couple of things. One being, I think Karen touched on, is we do use live human analysts. Some companies use artificial intelligence. So going back to utilization, we have a higher accuracy, right? So therefore, if their managers or their team is listening to calls and they do see, value in it, they're going to continue and utilize it more. Where if some of these calls or alerts that they're getting aren't accurate, they're going to get maybe turned off and you'll see the utilization going down. I think we also try to keep it simple, right? They have so many different dashboards and platforms and things to log into. So we have a good integration where they can find all of our reporting and calls within their CRM, which is where they live. And then I think, our relationships, we want to be partners with our customers. So we take a lot of time understanding, what their process is, what their challenges are, so we can collaborate and work together to give them and show them, what we have to help them with that.
Well, I want to jump back to Karen. So Karen, you kind of shocked me in the pre-interview when we were talking about this. I asked you the point blank car guy, car girl question. I said, okay, look, technology is great and technology, there's always these different things that are out there. But what's the ROI? Like, what's the value that you get point blank? And you blew me away when you said that out of the 3 stores, well, I'm going to have it come out of your mouth. How many additional units do you think that you sell a month for your group because of having the call source, technology and resource?
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Attention auto dealers. You need an opportunity to do business. AutoWeb is one of the largest suppliers of high quality leads. I mean, high quality buyers. At a 10% closing ratio, you will be at less than $190 per car sold. Don't just settle for what you get. AutoWeb can fully customize your results through targeted markets and/or zip codes, and as a partner, you will get premium placement within search results. Who better to do that than literally the people that invented automotive internet sales? If you want to sell more cars more often and more profitably, then you need AutoWeb.
Yeah, definitely. I think daily, to be honest, with the amount of we have obviously a higher volume dealer, but with the 20 to 30 alerts we get a day combined for the 3 stores, I would say at least 2 of them get converted. Now, maybe they would have gotten converted, but I convert them today and right away versus hoping that they come back and don't cross shop, which nowadays is, so that's 2 a day times 30 average days in a month. So you guys
Right.
can
So, and what's crazy is that, so you're talking about, and that makes sense. It's about 20 units per store. So it's about 60 units for the 3 stores. And we also talked about, like, right now, because of the craziness with inventory and economy, a lot of dealers like yourself are having astronomically high grosses. So you guys are averaging conservatively, because we're not going to give all your secrets away, about 7 G's a copy. So $60,000, 60 units times $7,000 a month. You're looking at $420,000 a month times 12, is $5,040,000 in revenue. And like you said, there might be a margin of some of them might have happened anyway, but what the software does is it enables you to guarantee it's going to happen now, not hope or possibly or wait or etc. But hell, even if it's only 4 million, even if it's only 3 million, even if it's only 2.5 million, whatever, it's a hell of a massive ROI from what your investment is on the monthly service compared to the massive ROI that you get there. Am I correct?
100%. Even if it was only 1 million, it's still
Right.
definitely worth it.
$1 million. So help us understand from your perspective as the dealer, as the director of operations, from my experience is that there's a lot of technology out there, and the biggest problem is that dealers don't use it. They're not set up the correct way. They're not onboarded the right way. They're not trained the right way. They're not held accountable. And even if that happened, which it mostly doesn't, that we have a 70 to 80% attrition ratio, and the people that were trained are gone, and then we got to start from scratch. So what we need to be able to find out from you is, why does this work so much?
Well, I think the call source makes it so easy with the fact that it tells you what went wrong in the call. You almost don't need to even listen to the call to be able to say, hey, BDC manager, hey, BDC agent, what happened here? Call this customer back, get them in the store, whatever it might be. I barely have to spend any time other than essentially forwarding an email. So, it's a much quicker process, and they know if I send them an email, they need to respond with what the outcome was. So, it's definitely made it so much easier. I used to spend, I think, hours listening to calls, trying to find a good call, a bad call, to be able to coach them properly. And this has just made it much easier.
Two things. One, because I have ADD, so let me just talk about what you said. And then Kelly prompted me with something I want to touch on. I got to tell you right now, part of what I do at Dealer Synergy, and I have a staff of people that do this very experienced, is that we do call monitoring, and we're at the mercy of what dealership technologies they have, you know what I mean? And so the ones that have call source make my life a lot easier, my staff's life a lot easier, compared to what you just said. One of the biggest problems, if you just have a regular call tracking system, and first of all, sometimes dealers are really frugal, cheap, you know what I mean? And they'll buy 1-800 number, and they'll try to combine all the numbers and all the reps there. So you've got to spend a ton of time to find a viable call to grade. And let's just say that if you're trying to do this the right way and get a clear diversity of, the different agents, the different reps that are there, sometimes you're spending a ridiculous amount of wasted time trying to find a call to be able to grade and critique. So there's, time is literally money. Okay, now, Kelly brought up a point too, I want to just clarify this, and I want to talk about this, is that number, the 5 million plus, was just on the sales side. What would you say the value is for service and for CSI?
That was for Kelly or for me?
For you.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Yeah. So
our names are kind of close, so sorry. So on the service side, we waited a little bit because, like you said, I don't want to put something in place that somebody wasn't going to be using. So once we realized how easy it was and how easy it was for sales to make use out of it, I said, okay, let's bite the bullet and do it on service, because I know their call volume and they have more issues with the phone, than the sales department did, at least at our store. Maybe not all service departments are the same, but I feel like most are. So, we bit the bullet, added service, and we've raised our call connection ratio to the correct person already in 3 months by 10% or more, because some months we were even below 50%, which was not good. But we've definitely raised it a good amount. And you think about it, with the volume and service, that's a lot of ROs. So, 10% of the service call volume.
That's amazing. So Kelly, from your perspective, again, what is the mission and vision of Call Source? Like, obviously you're doing something incredibly successful for the Doral Auto Group, but again, so to be able to generate sales, service, CSI, tell us what the value is and how, a dealership or dealer group like Karen's organization, if they engaged it, what would be the expectations? What problems could you solve and what could you achieve?
I think on service is a big focus right now, especially due to, the current state that we're in with some inventory shortages and service getting the most volume of calls coming into a dealership. What we started seeing in, our data was 40-50% of those calls were never being answered. They would either go to voicemail, or the consumer would hang up, probably because hitting voicemail again, or maybe being put on hold too long. So what we started doing is, reaching out to dealers, kind of identifying these things, looking to see if it's a process change within the store, and also looking at, either advising them on should they look at internal or external BDCs to help manage that process. And we immediately saw when we did this that they were getting a lift in their CSI, as well as about a 17% increase in ROs for the store.
Oof.
It can be a pretty big number.
I just think this is incredibly useful and powerful. If I can, Kelly, can you just, because you are obviously on a national level, from your position, talk to us. What do you see like the biggest problems that are in the industry? Like I started to talk about in the beginning of the interview about, because of the pandemic, there's an inventory crisis, there's chip crisis, and people are trying to be fiscally responsible. So what would you say, if you could just sum it up right now on September 2nd, 2021, what are the biggest automotive challenges that our industry faces on a dealership level, dealer group level, or management level? And what advice do you have to fix that or counteract that?
I think there's a couple of things. So I think on the sales side, they're kind of living high on the horse, right? I mean, business is good. They're selling what they have crazy grosses. So it's making sure we don't get complacent. And, sometimes they tend to pull back financially when this is the ideal time for them to take advantage of utilizing those phone calls to do training and to keep those good habits in place, right? On service, I think the pandemic was a good thing because it brought an awareness to an issue that maybe we overlooked. Sometimes sales gets all the attention and service doesn't quite get so much. So I think it has been a good thing on that, sort of identifying that there is a challenge and, it is hard staffing in that department and in just getting that ROI. So understanding if there needs to be some process changes, like she said, it could be something as simple with the receptionist, helping to weed through those calls. Is it status updates? Is it appointment type calls to make that call volume more manageable internally? Looking back, a lot of stores went away from BDCs, right? So looking back at initiating a BDC on the service side for the store, or even there's, Call Source actually has a virtual BDC as well, but there's several other companies out there that do that to help them because there's a lot of revenue opportunities there. And then obviously CSI, it's going to impact the sales down the road.
So I asked Karen what she finds is the most typical, issues that Call Source has identified. And she mentioned, like, for example, the receptionist breaching process, et cetera. From your perspective, because this is a national paradigm that I'm asking you to look through, what would you say that Call Source on a national level sees as the biggest challenges to dealers? Because I want to make dealers that are watching this on our Millionaire Car Salesman group on Facebook, and then when all these other dealers are going to listen to this on our podcast, I want them to be like, look, here's the reality check. First of all, approximately how many dealers do you guys work with? If you could share that, just to give perspective.
Call Source?
Yeah.
2 levels. So on an individual rooftop level, probably about 3,000. And then
stop. That's enough. You didn't have to give the secrets. So, because I'm trying to say, so it's not hundreds. When you're dealing with thousands of rooftops, there's a lot of data. Okay, because the way that I look at this is that if one store of Karen's is doing close to 300 units, 250, 300 units, even if it's just one, we're talking about out of 3,000 stores, those are like tens of thousands of units sold, which means to me there's 50 to 100,000 opportunities that Call Source is monitoring. You know what I mean? And so when you are monitoring that many phone calls and conversations, you start to learn a lot, based on the analytics. So can you share with us on a macro level, what are the biggest freaking mistakes that dealers are doing every damn day today all throughout the country?
Me?
Yes, ma'am.
So probably the biggest one is, and the easiest one to change, is not offering an appointment, right? So we see it's usually in the 30-40% of the time on the phone calls. We see that dealers that get that up to 60-80%, it makes a huge difference on their conversions.
Wait, I want to be clear, because this might sound ridiculous, okay? Because I am friends with a lot of vendors. Like I do a clubhouse every Friday with AutoWeb, which is a lead source provider, and it blows my mind that they say that almost 50% of their dealers, I think it's like 40-something% of their dealers, don't bother calling the prospect for the first time for 36 hours. How do you buy leads from a third-party provider and don't freaking call people back? So, and it blows me away as a trainer, a phone trainer, by the way, among other things, BDC trader, that, you have somebody calling you or you're calling them and you never ask them for the appointment. So I want to be clear that I didn't mishear you right here. You said that over 30% of people do not ever or bother to ask or sell the appointment. Is that correct?
It's higher than that, actually. It's probably
Higher.
It's probably like 50% of the people.
Oh my God. Wow. So let's talk about that. How is that even make sense? How do dealers spend tens of thousands of dollars, or hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in marketing, advertising, branding, their websites, in HR and technology and CRM and electricity and all the stuff that we spend money on, toilet paper, like gorillas on that float their arms, whatever, right? How do you spend all that money and you get somebody on the phone and you don't even solidify an appointment? Like, how does that happen? Is it lack of training, lack of process? We're too busy. We just don't care. Why do you think that happens? Kelly?
I might let Karen answer too,
Ooh,
but
okay.
what I see and hear, I think it's a little of all of that, right? So I think they either make an assumption, I'm giving you the information, my name's John, ask for me when you come in, right? But there's no firm appointment or commitment, which obviously is going to increase their show rates and things like that. So I think it's having the tools so Karen and people, the sales management team can reinforce that with the store, right? Because all of us need to be reminded. And I think that kind of out of sight, out of mind, and they just get lazy and don't do it. And especially right now, because, they know the next person walking in the door is going to buy it. So the person on the phone doesn't seem as important.
Karen, what's your opinion? And again, I was trying to let Karen off the hook a little bit on that, because you could speak on a macro level where this is a little more personal to her, but like, why do you think when you hear, a national subject matter expert like Kelly say that it's like a freaking pandemic itself, like there's so many dealers that just don't freaking ask for or sell the appointment and it's astronomically high. Why do you think that that's a problem for your organization or for dealers in general? Why do you think we can't get our reps to freaking ask for the appointment?
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Hey, Tim Cox from CarNow, and we would love the privilege and honor to be able to partner with you, our dealer partner, and show you why we continue to be the most awarded communication and digital retailing platform in automotive. What's the buzz about? We'd love to show you why. Please click the link below and let's partner together.
I think honestly, a lot of times they get complacent in their job. We have some reps that have been with us a long time and they just feel that they know when somebody's going to come and not come, and they don't, put in the extra effort. We do training, we do all of that, but if you're not listening to every single call, people get distracted, whether they're on Instagram, whatever they're doing, that doesn't let them focus on getting the customer in and focusing on every single call, which is at the end of the day, the customers that you have in your showroom, which is,
You know what? You bring up a point here. I'm going to translate that because I've heard this phrase over and over again. You've got to inspect what you expect. And I believe that dealers here's part of the problem is that we're in a month-to-month business. Unlike regular corporations that are quarterly driven, the cycle is crazy from the manufacturers, incentives, bonuses, all this other stuff. So we're on this small little leash to get all this stuff done. And then the nature of our business where we're reacting to people coming through, it's not really residuals like in corporate, like we have. We start from zero every single month. And I think that if you don't have the processes in place and the technology in place and the accountability mechanisms in place, we try to hope that it's getting done or we assume it's getting done. So I think that there's two problems here, because if you're correct, and so let's just be very brutally honest about this, ladies. If Kelly's correct, which I believe her to be truthful here, and she's saying that it's close to 50% of dealers, don't ask for the freaking appointment, that's insane to me. But that also is another problem. That means that there's also an astronomically high number of managers that are not doing their jobs correctly. The managers can't possibly be monitoring these calls, or holding their people accountable, or that number wouldn't be that high. So we have two issues. We've got the rep, and then we've got the manager. And so it is really important, whether you use call source or whatever, you have to have a strategy to be able to respect all of the ups that come through, especially in the economy that we're in right now. That's the message for today. Is that correct, ladies?
Yep.
All right, cool. All right, so I want to redirect because that's a lot, and I don't want to just beat it to death because I want people to rewind the podcast or go back because that's enough right there. Like I want to just drop the highlighter. I mean, that's pretty dope right there. But let's talk about, man, what is your prediction? I want to start with Karen. What is your prediction over the next 6 months to the year? How do you think the economy is going to be? What how do you think it's going to turn around? Whether it's inventory, you have a Ford store. I heard that Ford is out of their mind. Ford is trying to come to the model of like 40%, direct to order stuff, which I think is they're stretching reality in their minds. But so, what are your thoughts and what is your dealer group thinking and planning for the next 6 to 12 months?
I mean, we're definitely planning for a change. Some of it's going to stick. Obviously, eventually, once inventory levels come back to normal, I know, especially in a market like Miami, prices are going to go back to, we have to be aggressive again on pricing. Right now, we have the luxury of, pretty much being able to sell most cars at or above MSRP, which obviously we never did in the past. So, I mean, some of it's going to definitely revert back to normal, and we need to be looking at it every day pretty much to realize when that's happening. But I personally, I think it depends on the brand, what's happening. I feel like Lincoln and Ford, we went through the worst part already, regarding inventory shortage. I mean, I think July and August were probably the two worst that we'll have regarding inventory, hopefully, unless there's something else that happens. But I do think, a part of people are going to maybe do an order, but there's always going to be that person that just wants to go to the different stores, wants to see the inventory, or wants to have something they could buy on the lot, So we need to make sure to balance what we're ordering, make sure we have the right inventory with us. And, the BDC and salespeople are going to have to realize that sometimes they are going to have to push that factory order. How do you pay the BDC agents? How do you pay the salespeople? And it's just going to be a lot of change. So we're looking at that every day and definitely every month when we get together on our meetings.
I love it. Karen, same, how do I say this? Same thing we were talking about before the interview. I mentioned to both of you about females in automotive. My wife is a CEO of Dealer Synergy. Both my daughters are in the business. One daughter was 3 years in the front line selling cars. Now she's a junior executive in our organization. My youngest daughter's on the floor averaging 18, 20 cars a month at a dealership. So I love it. You know what I mean? But I think that there is a big hole in our industry. There's not enough females, and there's not enough females in all positions, in sales, in service, in management, in ownership, etc. Two questions for both of you, but I'm going to start with Karen first and go to Kelly. First question is why? And second is, how do we fix that?
Yeah. So today I hired a female salesperson. So I always get really happy when that happens. So I hired our Cutler-based store is going to have from 0 to 2. We only have 8 salespeople. So the ratio is getting up there. But I always, and even my father, who's the owner, he literally in our GM meeting last month, all he talked about was how can we get more women in sales and service. I mean, for me as a mom and a woman, I've realized how many of my friends, how many of my acquaintances don't like the feeling of walking into a dealership, right? So I think having another woman there or more women there that you can see face to face, hey, this person has the same interest, the same life, the same lifestyle that I do, is going to make them feel more comfortable. So I think it's super important to have women at the dealer. I think it might be honestly that dealerships aren't accommodating what they need to do to have more women at the store. Sometimes it's looking, are your pay plans competitive enough? Do you need to offer multiple types of pay plans, which is something we're looking at doing now? And, is your environment friendly for not just, girls talking all day about, some inappropriate things? Is it, conducive for females as well? So I think, we're definitely pushing that, and I think it'll help customers feel more comfortable, in both sales and service. So we definitely want as many. So if anybody from Miami is listening and is looking for a job, come on over.
No doubt. I would say this one thing I didn't hear you just mention that I find when I'm interviewing, because we do recruiting and staffing. I've literally staffed, and I don't know, Kelly, if you know this, over 37,000 automotive professionals in the last 17 years. We've hired 37,000. Yeah, we do. We have a whole recruiting and staffing program. And one of the things that I find when we are engaging with female candidates and why they didn't take the position, it's believe it or not, those things you mentioned, yeah, but even more so, it's the schedule. A lot of the females do not, and millennials, by the way, too, but especially females, don't want to work bell to bells. Not if they're a mom, if they got kids, or they got to, they want to be involved in their kids' schooling or PTA or what have you. So I think that dealers need to understand the paradigm and be flexible with different options as far as, whether it's hybrid, whether it's working from home for certain positions, or not all the time, whether it's, their flex schedules and there's this and there's that. I think there's different reasons, but I think that it's simply this: you need to reverse engineer like any problem. Identify all the things that are a challenge or a problem, why women don't want to work, or they get hired or they quit or whatever it is, and then start polling and interviewing and surveying women. Start with friends and family and females in the automotive industry. What do you need? What's important? What do you hate? What would you wish could change? And once you gather this field intelligence, then a dealership could take that strategy and start to properly recruit, hire, train, and onboard. Kelly, what's your thoughts on the same question?
I agree. I mean, I'm going to date myself, but I got on the car business on the retail side in 1989, and that was extremely challenging just because of the culture in the dealership.
What are you, a vampire?
I'm
be doing this. Whose blood are you sucking? Come on, damn, 89? Okay, I'm sorry.
But it was the hours. I mean, our stores could be open to 10, 11 o'clock at night. And, that's long and more difficult, I think, for the female. But I think dealers are starting to come around to that. You have A team, B team, where they do have some more reasonable or flexible hours and schedules. But I think on the flip side of that, it's letting females know that as well, right? So just getting that out in the industry so there will be enticements for females, because our poor Corey is the only guy on our sales team at CallSource.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I say why we were doing a new pay plan is, you also have to look at that, right? Because of course, if there's guys here from 9 to 9 or 9 to 10 or 11 every single day, they're going to be eating more from the pie, from the pie of customers. Yeah. So that's why we are coming up with like a little bit heavier salary-based pay plan with some volume bonuses to try to, have something that will still, if somebody works 40 hours versus working, 80, they'll make a decent amount of income. So
I love it. I have one last question that I'm going to let each of you kind of close out with, your thoughts are, and I'll cue you up on it. Here's my question. Okay. And this is a loaded question, so disclaimer, because this is a big interview. It's all over the place, so I know you got to be kind of politically correct. But I'm just curious. I want to start with Karen first. Who is the best person, if you could profile, to handle the phones at a dealership for sales? So I'm saying, is it better to have a BDC rep? Is it better to have a salesperson? Is it better to have a manager? Is it better to have a female? Is it better to have a male? Is it better to have a millennial? I mean, and again, this is just your opinion, just from your experience, being a senior executive of a dealer group. Who have you found is the secret sauce or the recipe for an amazing phone, ninja, so to speak?
So should I start?
Yeah, please.
So for me, what I've found to work the best for us is we have a centralized BDC, but what we try to do is have, and believe me, I've been now, 8 years? I think we finally found one salesperson who's up there that understands what needs to be done to bring the customer. And if I could have him in there 24/7, I would, because he has the product knowledge, has a little bit more understanding of the business. and he will bring the people that need to be brought into the dealership. So, you know, a lot of salespeople pre-qualified, do all that. So it's very hard to find somebody that'll do that. That's why I think the BDC agents are probably still the best ones to do that, to be on the phone most of the time. And, you know, obviously sometimes I do think having a woman on the phone is just a little bit friendlier of a voice, sometimes, not all the time. But then there's still some customers that, I mean, and I still deal with this, that want to talk to a guy because he's in charge, you know? So, I mean, it honestly depends. That's why I think it's good to have a mix. And, you know, when a customer wants to talk to a guy, I'm like, I'll give you a guy, don't worry. You know, you try to do whatever they want, you know, to make them happy. But at the end of the day, I mean, I think having a balance and having a BDC manager that's involved and ready to jump in when they have to is probably the most important. So that's my take.
I love it. Kelly, what about you?
I would agree with Karen. I think BDC, and just to add to what she's already said, is, you know, their sole responsibility and focus is to set an appointment. That's usually what they get paid on. So even though the salesperson in the long run is going to get paid if he sells the car, it just seems to have a little bit of a different mentality or urgency through the BDC. And agree, there needs to be a good balance. And I think in certain markets too, incorporating in, you know, different ethnicities as well, because there is comfort levels if somebody's speaking your own native language, I think, as well.
Well, listen, guys, I really appreciate your time and your insight. And I'm just honestly, Karen, blown away of how successful you and your organization are doing in the middle of a pandemic. And it's really good. Shakespeare said, show me your friends and I tell you who you are. It's always good to surround yourself with vendor partners, not just vendors that sling product, but people that are going to partner with you and synergize with you and help you, you know, do more, be more, and achieve more. And Kelly, thank you so much for being part of this. So here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with Kelly and then I'm going to give Karen the last word. Kelly, what I'd like to do is you have obviously a tremendous amount of experience, more than I thought you had in the automotive industry in the 80s, right? And so again, what would you like to leave with the Millionaire Car Salesman Group and the podcast? What advice do you have for dealerships and automotive, you know, professionals and managers on just some best practices advice to be successful and to maximize the opportunities they have? What advice would you have?
I think if you're just doing basic call tracking, that you need to step it up and look at a call monitoring type of process. It's just going to make your managers more efficient, better efficiency of their time. And then I think the other thing is, you know, things are really good right now, but don't be complacent and utilize this time to do training and to improve your people and continue that going, because we all know it's going to change. So
I'm so sorry because I was going to just shut up and let you guys close out, but I wish I could have bust some shots up in here for that, because I got to tell you that I have a lot of very high level dealer groups, and you know, even these multi-billion-dollar dealer groups, that's a major problem right now. It's hard to try to teach people how to fish when the freaking fish are jumping in the boats and they're fat as hell. You know what I mean? And so when you have these crazy grosses and there's very little inventory, so you know, it's hard to get people to train. So I'm finding you're exactly right. They're becoming complacent because they think this is the reality. This is like SpongeBob opposite world right now. Dealers don't understand, especially if you just got into the business in the last couple of years. This is not normal. The market will evolve. And if you're not prepared now in practice, drilling, rehearsing, you know, being, having an integrity-based process that you implement and execute without exception, without fail, shit's going to hit the fan and you're going to get crushed. So thank you so much for bringing that up. My question to you is, if somebody's interested in Call Source, or if they just want to pick your brain for some advice, how can they get a hold of you or find out more about Call Source?
Callsource.com is our website, and I'm happy to give my cell phone number out, 386-527-2297. And, you know, happy to talk to anybody or answer any questions.
And you guys are also going to be, you yourself, Kelly, are going to be a featured speaker at the upcoming IS20G in Philadelphia, correct?
Yes.
I'm really looking forward to hearing you on stage. All right, Karen, my girl, this is you now. So the same question is that you have a different perspective because, you know, you are not just a female in automotive and not just a badass director of operations, but, you know, you are legacy. your family owns not just one store, but multiple dealerships. So you have so many different paradigms. You have the internet BDC paradigm. You've got the director of operations paradigm. You got the female paradigm. You've got the lucky sperm club, winner, paradigm. You know what I mean? Because your dad's the DP. So there's a lot of stuff that you grew up in this environment. So what advice do you have for people that are in this industry and they're trying to build a career? What advice do you have for them to achieve success on the floor or in the BDC or in management?
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Hundreds of dealers have switched to VinQ in 2020. For a limited time, VinQ will match any special trial offers the other guys are throwing out there. With VinQ, replace 5 systems with one solution: market pricing, inventory management, wholesale and private party acquisitions, advertising, and reconditioning. Don't miss out on the chance for better data, increased churn, and higher gross per sale. Stop competing on price alone and start competing on value with VinQ. Request a live look at VinQ.com.
I mean, I think the most important thing, like you guys said, is, when you take time that, not necessarily slower, but there's obviously less volume, and I don't see how dealers can really be doing more volume at this time with the inventory shortages. Some are, but a lot are not. So I think the most important thing we have to look at when things slow down, everything you guys said, look at, how can you improve? Are you using the right vendors? Are you making use out of the vendors that you're using? And one of the really important things I think you said is when you have a vendor that's like a partner, and I feel with Call Source, I've been able to call them for anything. I know Corey is probably on my speed dial, who's listening in on this. For any little thing, they're willing to help. And I think when you find vendors that are, not just there, to provide you the information, but help you make the best use out of it, it's very important. And we're taking this time to look at everything from our CRM to our DMS to who we're using for training. How much are they using our training system? Probably soon we'll be jumping on with Sean and Dealer Synergy. So we're looking at everything that we need to improve our internal processes so that when this blows up, because it will, like Sean is saying, this isn't going to last forever. So when this blows up, to make sure that we are ready to, tackle the market at that time. So, and everybody that's listening, I would urge you to do the same.
Yeah, and I'm going to just thank you guys again because, look, you guys are both busy. I mean, like extremely busy. You on a national level, you on a dealer group level. And this is how we get better, is that when we are able to take time and to be able to share best practices and share strategies and share what works and what doesn't work and try to help each other. I believe in abundance. I'm a Franklin Covey, disciple here, and I believe the paradigm of abundance instead of scarcity. And, this is how we get better, is by learning and synergizing. So I want to thank you both so much for your time, and I hope you enjoyed it and you could appreciate my crazy little humor, but I really enjoyed talking to you. And I think that there's a tremendous amount of value that we just gave to our community. And again, thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Bye.
So there you have it, the Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast. This podcast comes to you every week from the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. If you have a question about the show or would like the chance to become a guest, feel free to contact us directly at 856-546-2440 or email us at millionairecarsalesman@gmail.com. This program is a presentation of Synergy Records, produced by Tiana Mick and L.A. Williams. Production and engineering by L.A. Williams. The Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast is hosted every week by L.A. Williams and the Millionaire Car Salesman himself, Sean V. Bradley. The Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast can be found everywhere, so please don't forget to review, subscribe to, and share the show. Thanks for listening to the Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast, and remember, where I'm from, money provides options. The Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast is sponsored in part by VinQ and AutoWeb. If you enjoyed this podcast, then make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and leave us a review. Let some other folks know about it. Oh, and don't forget to join the Millionaire Car Salesman group on Facebook. We'll see you there.